There are times when you're sitting in a very quiet room, but inside you're unbearably noisy. No one sees, no one hears, but you know very well that something inside you is wrong. And then a question arises, not from anyone else, but from yourself. Are you all right? It sounds simple, but if you had to answer honestly, you might evade the question or just laugh it off, because deep down, answer isn't as good as it seems on the surface. People often think that peace is when life is stable, money, a job, someone by your side, no illness, no misfortunes. But if that's true, then why do some people who have everything still suffer from insomnia? Why do some people seem perfectly fine but feel strangely empty? Perhaps we have misunderstood peace from the very beginning. There was a man who lived a life that, to anyone looking at him, seemed okay. He wasn't rich, but he wasn't lacking. He wasn't outstanding, but he wasn't mediocre either. Each of his days unfolded like a clock. Waking up, going to work, coming home, having dinner, and then sleeping again. Everything happened exactly as a normal life should, but only he knew that something was not normal inside him. Every night when he lies down, he doesn't fall asleep immediately. Not because he's busy, but because he doesn't dare to sleep. Because every time he closes his eyes, that's when the thoughts come flooding in. He recalled past mistakes, hurtful words, missed opportunities due to fear. He imagined the future. Terrible things that could happen. Losses he had never experienced, but feared as if they were imminent. There were nights when he felt like he was living two lives. One life, on the outside, normal, stable. And one life on the inside, full of anxiety, torment, and no way out. And the scariest thing is, nobody knows. We're often better at hiding our emotions than understanding them. We learn to laugh when we need to laugh, speak when we need to speak, and remain silent when we don't want to be asked further questions. But the more we hide, further we drift away from ourselves. One day, during a chance encounter, he was asked a question he hadn't expected. How have you been lately? It wasn't like, how are you? A question anyone could answer casually. It was a question that went straight to the heart, the place he always tried to avoid. He smiled, a familiar reflex. It's fine. But when he got home, the question was still there. It didn't disappear. It wouldn't leave him alone. That night, for the first time in a long time, he didn't try to avoid it. He lay there, staring at the ceiling, and asked himself, am I at peace? And this time, he didn't answer immediately. He started to look back. He realized that most of his insecurity didn't come from the present. It came from the past and the future. Two things he couldn't change or control. Past is gone, but he still carries it with him, like a backpack full of stones on his back. Each mistake, each regret, is a stone. He doesn't put it down because he thinks it's a responsibility, a lesson, something he must remember. But he didn't realize that just because you bring something doesn't mean you'll learn it. As for the future, it hasn't arrived yet. But he's been living as if it's threatening him every day. He prepares for bad things that haven't happened, worries about losses that haven't occurred. He tries to control everything just to feel safe. But the paradox is, the more he tried to control himself, the more he lost control. Because life is never something we can hold firmly in our hands. And then he realized something he had never thought about before. It wasn't life that made him feel insecure. It's the way he reacts to life that makes him insecure. In the same circumstances, some people collapse, while others remain calm, not because they are stronger, but because they don't fight against what they cannot change. We often think that peace means eliminating all problems, but that's impossible. Problems always exist. Life is always full of changes. Therefore, peace does not mean the absence of storms. It's when you no longer let the storms of life dictate your emotions. But to do that, you have to learn to stay true to yourself. No need to run away. No need to scatter. No need to find something to fill the void. Just stay. It sounds simple, but that's the hardest part. Because when you're alone, with nothing to hold on to, you have to confront yourself with the thoughts you've tried to avoid, with the feelings you don't want to acknowledge. But it is in that moment that you begin to understand. You realize that emotions are not the enemy. Anxiety is not something to be eliminated. Sadness is not a sign of weakness. They are just signals. But because you weren't listening, they had to become louder. Like a child craving attention, the more it's ignored, the louder it cries. Your mind is the same. When you start listening, things gradually calm down. That man didn't become a perfect person. He still had tiring days. He still had moments of anxiety, moments of sadness. But one thing has changed. He is no longer afraid of those feelings. He is no longer trying to run away. He just realized, that's how I'm feeling. And then he let it go. Do not hold back. Do not resist. It's like sitting by a river, watching the water flow by. You don't need to block the flow. You don't need to jump in either. You just need to sit there. As time went by, he began to feel lighter, not because life became easier, but because he was no longer making it heavier. He began to understand that peace is not the destination. It's your way of going. It is not a permanent state. Rather, it's a skill, an ability to return to yourself no matter where you are or what you're going through. One day, he was asked again, "Are you all right?" This time, he didn't laugh it off. He thought for a moment, then replied, "It's not always possible, but I know how to get back." And perhaps that is the most truthful answer, because life will constantly challenge you. There will be days when you're tired, times when you feel lost, moments when you feel like everything is spiraling out of control. But if you know how to return to your breath, return to the present moment, return to yourself, then you won't be lost for too long. So, if you're wondering today, am I at peace? And if the answer is not yet, that's okay too. Peace is not something you have to have immediately. Something you build little by little by understanding ourselves a little better. Accept yourself a little more and let go of the things you don't need to bring. Because sometimes what makes you tired isn't life itself, it's what you're trying to keep inside. Try being gentler, not by changing the whole world, but by changing the way you see the world. And who knows, in some very ordinary moment, when you're sitting still, doing nothing special, you might realize peace has never left you.